A very good morning to all of you. I really thank all of you for joining this webinar on a Monday morning, and we hope that we create something productive with all of you by the end of this webinar. A quick introduction to myself. I am Nupura. I am the initiative lead for digital public goods and infrastructure at CivicDataLab. We are here for the discussion around the expression of interest called Unlocking Multilingual and Inclusive Datasets for India, which we had launched post the India AI Summit. So Civic Data Lab is a private research lab where we are focused on leveraging data and AI for public good. Over the past 8 years, we have contributed to various sectors, including public finance, climate action, disaster preparedness, law and justice, urban development, with the goal of making datasets accessible, consumable, and usable for various data consumers. A few years ago, in our effort to make datasets more accessible, we observed that the local level stakeholders were interested, but kind of hesitant to openly adopt the critical solutions that we were pushing out, which questioned the sustainability of these applications. So this was exactly the turning point for our organization, where we realized that along with putting out critical data sets, we also must focus on the multilingual data sets to move further. This focus is essential to create the buy-in for the local stakeholders to use the solutions more often, and also create like a long-term sustenance of solutions to ensure that there is rich local data available to train models, and ultimately guarantee that no one is left behind, and that creates a good amount of inclusion. So talking about all of these things led to the creation of this whole project called DOST. It's the Dataset Onboarding Support Team initiative. This initiative is in collaboration with BHASHINI and is funded by the Gates Foundation. It is a 2-year project. So the goal of this project is basically to onboard as many language datasets as possible, and particularly penetrate to the states of India, where we have different types of multilingual datasets pertaining from voice, text, dialects, or even low resource languages, which are not yet considered in the trainings of the AI model. So the whole goal here is to look at onboarding of these stakeholders who are currently either identified or sitting on these datasets. How do we build their capacities to onboard these datasets to the larger ecosystem, like Bhashini, where the effort is more towards bringing on these multilingual datasets forward. That's the reason why we have collaborated here with Bhashini, and we are very honored today to have Shri Amitabh Nag sir, the CEO of the Digital India BHASHINI Division, to deliver a keynote address for this initiative and share his perspective. How do we aim towards achieving this goal? So once sir has shared his perspective, we will move on to understanding what is DOST and how can one contribute to it. So, Amitabh sir, if you can hear me, over to you for your keynote, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me here. This is an initiative which is actually trying to unlock the data sets which are there in the various domains, government being one of them, but there are other domains where the data sets are available and visible. And obviously, it is visible to be used by people, but often they do not know how to actually contribute it. Sometimes the data set might be confidential, or there could be some issues or challenges with data sets with respect to sharing, and we perhaps do not know what are the ways and mechanisms and licensings, etc., which needs to be there to have this sharing possible. The sharing is for larger good, because your data is not going away anywhere. It is accepting that the model is able to actually be trained for better outputs using those data sets. And it is like a child who is reading that extra book to become extra knowledgeable, so that they are in a position to actually perform better in that context or in domain, and not actually picking up the complete data and then sharing that data somewhere else. So it is more from a knowledge sake, more from a perspective of improvement of models, and the more the data sets, the better it would be. We know that is a very cardinal rule per se. Having said that, as I said, there are difficulties and challenges with respect to how to share the data sets, the methodologies, the way it can be made AI ready. Because if you give us, us the dump from the perspective of one language and another dump of another language, it will not be a valid data sets for AI readiness. So that is something which you have to understand. And the implications are wide ranging. If you actually look at it, when we started this movement about 3.5 years back, 2021, 2022 was the time frame, we had very few people who were actually looking at things which are in practice, in working. Uh, Today we have a lot of people working in the language technology domain and language AI domain, and purpose of government was to actually, have that revolution. And we started this entire journey about 3.5 years back. And our idea was to build technologies which are inclusive, which are, helping everybody to be part of it. And, before that, it was when we started this thing, we were discussing 6 or 7 languages which were from an Indian context. But when we started talking 22, people started talking 100. When you're talking 100, people are, definitely trying to say that we will bring back the languages which has now vanished into the mainstream. So in a lot of ways, we are trying to show the way by actually doing it. No, we are not saying that industry should do this or X should do this or Y should do this. We are doing it ourselves and then encouraging people to actually help themselves and try to surpass us in the effort of technology which is going on. And we are quite happy that a lot of people have tried to do that. And, there are technologies which are available which can be now utilized. But nevertheless, are we in a position to compare the models and say that this is best or this is not best? I guess that this is too early to do that. The reason is that the systems are data deficient, and it needs oil. It needs oil to travel that to up to that Mount Everest or wherever we want to take it to. It needs that oil. And DOST is that initiative which actually is taking or bringing that oil in the public domain. We are also having some paid domains where the data is collected, and that can also be discovered or discussed. But the point which I'm trying to make is that when you are trying to say today that, is my language model better than your language model, or is this LLM better than that LLM? Yes, you can do some benchmarks and say that this is what is happening. But when you look at deploying it on a real world condition as we observe today, it requires still those, 100, 200,000, 2,000 books to be read before the child starts maturing to a man who can actually do things which is required, a man or a woman, depending upon what you look at it. So our idea would be to encourage systems and processes and teams to contribute and find ways of contribution, discuss challenges what are there in contribution, and see how this can be enabled as much as possible. So that's what my thought process and request would be from everybody who's attending this call, and we can perhaps take it forward with the sense of pride that we did contribute. The other part of the thing which is there is that, when we are looking at the open data setup, we might still find that the data might not be that, that in that quantity as well. One of the ways of doing that is to actually use tools which actually throw up data at the, which we actually create data. So, we have started doing many things which are there. We have a product which actually actively transcribes and translates at the same time, so that if this is in English, then a Hindi content can be generated. Obviously, that may or may not be that perfect in terms of the, translations, but somebody can actually correct it and throw it back on the open domain, so that the content increase in digital content happens. So the other thing which I would say is that you should start using open tools which can create digital content by default. So if this session is getting transcribed, if it is also translated into Hindi and it is put on internet and shown to everyone saying that let's correct it and resubmit it the way Wikipedia perhaps did some time back, because they had a challenge round uh, on the entire system. I would believe that we will be able to create those digital content which is so much required by us as far as languages are concerned, so that the diversity starts creeping in. We also have systems like BHASHADAN, where we are looking for contribution, active contribution and validation on a crowdsourcing fashion, and that could be another way of creating data sets, which can be explored. So if you don't have data sets but you still want to contribute, Bhashadan can be a very active way to do that. And should anyone look forward to those opportunities which are there from an organization or a campaign perspective, I think Napura and team would be happy to actually take that forward also. So that's about creating data sets which are there. And again, when we are looking at data sets being created, it has to be annotated, labeled, and so that it is used properly for AI readiness. Again, there are platforms and tools which are available which do that. And should you be able to contribute to that, or you're looking for assignments to that effect, again, those can be part of Bhashini Samudaya, which can be used by data civic labs to do the things either on a paid or on a pro bono basis as you desire to contribute on to. That is something which can be taken. So those are things which I'm trying to say, that in which you can contribute and can build the things better. Given the fact that we still are in a struggling phase as far as building systems are concerned, but we should be looking at what results we have achieved and what lies ahead of us if we start contributing. So what we have achieved till now is a huge setup in terms of the websites which have got translated into multiple languages. Yesterday, Honorable Vice President actually released a chatbot which actually answers any questions from you on voice journey in 22 languages about the legal queries which you might have before approaching a court or a police, etc., etc. So there are things which are happening, which are which are actually, those narrow use cases are working. They are delivering results. They are delivering value. So join in this national campaign, and obviously we are in a position to take this forward into a next level of granularity and details with all of you. So that's what I had to say. Thank you very much for again inviting. I hope all of you become part of this journey of inclusivity and empowerment, and also of nation building, so that we are in a position to actually take this forward.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insights. We now move towards the presentation on what is DOST and how one can contribute towards this initiative. Can I request the presentation to be put up again? I would request folks, in case you have any questions based on the things what Amitabh sir has said, or during the presentation, we would request you to please put it in the chat, as we can address those at the end of the presentation as well. Thank you. So coming back to the DOST initiative, as mentioned, DOST, we are not looking at it to be another data repository, but it would function more as a support team at this point of time, where we provide like a guided, hand-holded support to all the contributors from wherever they are having their data sets at this point of time, and to make it live onto platforms like AIKosh or BHASHINI ecosystems. This is a service to the dataset contribution part. It works in 4 steps at this point of time. First, we help you identify what you have. Second, we will help you prepare it, clean it, structure it, and help you in terms of removal of any kind of PII information and document it. Third, we onboard it with to AIKosh or the other ecosystems with full attribution to the custodians of the data set itself. Last, we built it into a sustainable data stream by helping you also to identify the use cases where this adoption of your data sets are happening. So we are also in the aim of building that network, which allows you to also have discussions where, where the uptake of the data set is required, what kind of demand is also coming forward for these kind of things. We are also enabling more data set ambassador networks at different states. To begin with, this project will support 6 states at this point of time to have local ambassadors present in the state where they do these handholding efforts with each type of stakeholder at this point of time, whether it be government organizations, civil societies, academic bodies, or even individual contributors for that matter. So they will be guiding you step by step throughout these contributor journey process as well. As mentioned on the screen, why should one contribute? We offer 3 areas under which the contribution can be supported. One is the technical guidance and support. So any kind of issues that maybe you might have identified the data set, you have like reports which are sitting in PDF formats at this point of time. Just giving you an example, we were reached out by a media organization who puts out a lot of chunk of news reports, and it is happening in multilingual dialects in India. And they're interested to contribute this, but do not know how to create this into a data set format, which is, good for training an AI system, or, has that information where it can be standardized, it can be checked in terms of the PII controls and everything. So that is also one level of technical guidance and support that we provide in terms of understanding what will be the corpuses that it can contribute to, and how can we ensure to maintain the responsible and the ethical factors of this contribution. Second thing is national recognition and attribution. We want the custodians of these data sets to have the visibility in terms of the bigger ecosystems like BHASHINI and AIKosh, and allowing them with collaboration opportunities with other network systems. As mentioned, we are trying to do it in multiple state efforts. We would also like people who actively come forward and help with the contribution to have these interactions cross state level as well, and also at the national level to seek any kind of guidance, to discuss and talk and share about their use cases and their methodologies. And good methodologies can also, with the consent, can be replicated in other states as well. Third is access to language data and AI ecosystem. We understand that everything cannot happen under one roof. So under the BHASHINI support and the BHASHINI Samudaya support, we also identify areas of mentorship in terms of webinars or the technical guidance that we can provide the stakeholders in terms of having data sets which need to be annotated, which needs to be labeled, or in general how to keep the sustenance on further. So this is an entire package that we are looking at once you come on board via the DOST initiative to support the language effort happening in the nation at this point of time. So what we request stakeholders who are contributing is do not hesitate, even at whatever stage you are, to put your applications forward, so that we can guide you from that level how to ensure to make it further supportive. So these are the type of contributors. This is I would say a broad list. Things can move beyond this list as well. Largely we are looking at government departments, the state line departments, because they are also sitting with a lot of data set at this point of time. So our team will support line departments in terms of, for example, if it's a finance department, we know budget speeches in every state come in bilingual, are published in bilingual setups, whether it is audio or it is in the text-based corpuses. So something like this, we can elaborate and ensure how to convert data sets from these kind of things. Similarly, the support to the other line departments, which are the priority to the state itself. Universities and research organizations, I think these are the most critical contributors when it comes to an initiative like this, because a lot of capacity building exercise also takes place via this, not just for students, but also for educational practitioners who are training these groups of students to become contributors in the multilingual ecosystem. So That's another thing. Cultural and language preservation corpuses. We see there are a lot of volunteer groups at state level who are doing self initiatives at this point of time. They need certain level of capacity support, certain level of network support itself, because they're putting a lot of data set. But how to ensure that this data set is getting used in the right way? What is the ethical parameters? What is the community requiring? So these kind of interlinkages, dialogues can be facilitated via the DOST initiative. Civil societies and organizations. A lot of civil societies are currently working with a lot of sectorial lens. We as Civic Data Lab also look at, climate action, gender inclusion, but how can we add an additional layer of looking at multilingual data sets as well, if there is certain level of contribution already happening from the sources or from the field that we are working at. Startups and private organizations, we look at private organizations who are already building certain corpuses and need like an interaction with with the support of the community. We are open to help in that level. Independent researchers, a lot of individual experts who are working on these corpuses, we are open to support that, and community contributors working with language resources. So these are broader list. Again, we can have more people beyond this as well, who are open to contribute data sets to support and guide them via the DOST initiatives. The use cases, again, this is like the first level use cases that we identified based on our research, but we are open to get inputs on different areas. Whether it is under the speech and audio data set or conversational data sets, cultural archives, even if they are sitting in non-digitized format at this point of time, even if you can share one sample, we can see how we can support you with the community around to create it digitized formats and then eventually make it into a data set which can be contributed. As sir mentioned, we are at a very early stage. Still, we have a lot to do. So look at this as a not a barrier, but as an area which allows each one of you also to identify a use case around which you can also work around. Moving to the next one. Yeah. So this is already a submission of interest that we have already put out. I would request my colleague to just quickly allow with a walkthrough of the expression of interest. Nikhil, over to you.
So I'll just quickly go through the form, and the section, it is divided into 4 parts, where we start with the introduction, and then we slowly move towards. I hope my screen is visible, and we slowly move towards the about the data sets, the support needs, and the eventually to the data set. So the introduction is short. It is about the contributor. It could be the organization. As we discussed in the use cases, it can be individual contributors, government departments, universities, research institutions, as well as private companies. Then we move on to what states the organization is working in, or what states or the languages that the organization is working in. So I'll just start. Then we move on to what the sector is they're working in, the organization is working in. If there is any, what are the use cases as to why you're creating the data set, or why you're getting the data set together. So there are examples. It could be from preserving local language to from local languages to rural dialects. And so that we move on to the part where if you have the language data sets ready, so it could be the data set could be ready to share, but also it could be in a raw format where you need a certain support in organizing the data set and preparing the data set, putting in a format which is ready to be shared. And then we move on to the type of data set. So as part of the DOST Helpdesk, we have a lot of documents in place which covers the entire life cycle of a data set. It goes into the type, it goes into the licensing types. So post this call, we'll be sharing all these documents where all of these areas will be covered in detail. But So yeah, so the type of data set, it could be text, it could be images, it could be transcripts. So what are the type of data sets that you have in place? And then we move on to what is the format that the data set is in place. Is it CSV? Is it digital files? Is it been compiled in a certain way? Is the file structure in place? And if it is images or if it is text, are they linked? Are they indexed? So that is then moving on. And then what is the kind of rights that you have want to share about the data set? Do you want it openly available or with if it is something that has to be shared on restricted basis with permissions or not? And then one of the very important things in preparing a data set is that if it is free of personal and private information, which is something that has to be avoided, which has to be removed from the data set to avoid biases. And then share the example of the data set or links that you can share about the data set so that we can review it. And and then we sort of briefly describe how much information is contained in a data set or what is contained in a data set, a very rough overview. Then we move on to what is the current state of the data set. What state is it in? So what kind of technical support or intervention do you need in preparing the data set? So it could be from help in documentation, metadata preparation, or from if the data set is in the raw format. So sort of putting it into place and organizing it so that it can be made AI ready, or any guide or any help in making the data set AI ready. And then along with the data set, what is the potential recognition with the contribution? What is the potential recognition that you would want with in regards to the data set? So then we can, and as part of the firm, we also looking forward to what are the main concerns regarding the data set contribution. So it could be information regarding licensing rights, who has the access, what is the license that has been attributed to, how the data set is going to be used, where it's going to be used. So all those are the areas that we are looking to address with this project. And lastly, towards the end, we would like a short project or a proposal on the data set as to what is it that you're proposing. Why is it that we have the organization has created a certain data set, and what is the potential scope of collaboration and support that you're looking for the data set. So it could be so that we can get it prepared and have it shared with us. So our team will go through the data set and then get back to you. So I'll go back to the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil. So the idea here from this expression of interest is basically to capture as much as detail in terms of at what stage are you at. So even if you need any kind of support while filling the expression of interest, our team can also provide that level of support. You can reach out to us via the email ID that we will share by the end of this presentation. So as mentioned, this expression of interest gives us the right information to help you to in terms of whether you are interested, you are sitting on any kind of data sets to potentially look into terms of contribution at this point of time. Can we move to the next one? Evaluation metrics at this point of time, we look at from multiple lens. We look at the kind of data diversity that we are bringing into. If in case it is an underrepresented language or a dialect or a script, it is more than welcome at this point. It can also be at a very nascent stage, but how to scale it up from there can be an area where we jointly collaborate with you to understand. Second is dataset update frequency. In terms of already existing datasets, what is the update frequency? If it is a one-time dataset, does it update, maybe daily, monthly, weekly? That can be some of the areas that we can look into in terms of maintaining the sustainability of this dataset to go onto a bigger platform like this. Third is data governance. The licensing, consent, and the DPDP compliance altogether, because this language datasets would sit within the Indian ecosystems. So we would pertain to, in case there is a specific license that you are using with your current datasets, we would be open to hearing about that thing. Of course, we ensure to present all the consent mechanisms in terms of things, and we ensure to attribute the data contributor themselves who are owning this data, and every data set would be in terms of the DPDP compliance altogether. Fourth thing is data set volume and readiness. What is the scale and immediate usability? There are already certain corpuses that a lot of stakeholders are building, but at this point they are in silos. They are not visible or accessible to anyone. So in case that is a good volume that we see, it can be a scale medium where those team can support you in terms of keeping the data stream up, and help you identify the immediate usability of this dataset volume as well. And the final thing is dataset uptake. In case there are any current citations or validations or contributors who have or consumers who are already used your dataset, we would like to know a little more about that as well. So when you're filling the expression of interest or you're putting your two-page proposal, please ensure to cite any kind of materials that you already have in case of your existing data uptake. So this would help us in terms of the evaluation matrix. We are putting this expression of interest on rolling basis at this point of time. As you know, it's a 2-year project. So the project would have multiple open cohorts that we would put out as a part of this expression of interest. This is the first of its kind for this thing. So we would keep this open for some while. Initial stakeholders who put their expression of interest will get immediate support. My request at this point of time would be like, do not miss putting your entry. How to move forward is where the dataset onboarding team would come on board to support you. Can we move to the next one? Yeah, so that's it from our end, and we would now open the floor for Q&A. So we are just opening the questions area. So we would request, in case you want to unmute yourself, please let us know your name, your organization and designation, and the question that you have. It would help us to record your questions as well, and also give you concrete answers.
If anybody has any questions, we request you to please raise your hand so that we can proceed to unmute you. As I have sent you a request, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Thank you.
Good morning. So my name is Prabhu Singh, and I work with Guy Technologies here in Dharamshala, Himachal Pradesh.
Mr. Prabhu, we've unmuted you, but we cannot hear you still.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Can you please repeat your question?
Good morning, I'm Prabhu Singh. I work with Guy Technologies in Dharamshala, Himachal Pradesh. And I've just posted a question there. So we have a script here, a very native script here, which is newly discovered, which is called Takri. And we want to know, we have very limited, literature regarding this, but how do we, start contributing for a newly discovered script like Takri?
Right. Thank you so much for sharing your question. What we would request, Mr. Prabhu, is as we understand, it's a newly discovered script. In case there is any sample data or sample script size that you can share during the expression of interest, we can also analyze it at our end, and we can provide you the necessary support and the team from the DOST Helpdesk to identify and see what is the option of sharing this and in form of contribution as part of data sets. So in case there is any sample script part of the script that you can help us that you can share with us, that would help us to analyze. And providing a little more context in terms of who the native speakers are, what belt it is being spoken at this point of time, and in case there is some understanding in terms of the uptake.
Sure. So we'll have to definitely work on those samples. So yeah, thanks. Thank you so much.
Yeah, even a minimum sample is also okay for us to look into it and provide the necessary support. Is there anyone else who has certain questions? Even if you do not want to speak it, we can also look it into the chat and also answer your questions. Yeah, Mr. Ashwath Rao, please.
As I've sent you a question, unmute yourself. Accept that, unmute yourself and speak. Thank you.
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah, Dr. Yashika, you are.
Hi, so apologies if my question sounds too open-ended because I'm too new to all this discussion on the platform. I just wanted to ask how can this initiative help strengthen the health sector of our country? And if at all there are ways, how can we as doctors actively contribute to that? Thank you.
Sure, Yashika. Thanks for your question. So a number of ways you can contribute. Actually, there are a number of different ways medical data sets can help to support existing sectoral infrastructure. So we're looking for data sets in the case of healthcare, which can look like, for example, an annotated medical imagery, which can be used in image to text data sets, or OCR prescription, multilingual medical data sets. And all of this can contribute both the development of clinical decision support systems, which can help the doctors in the network, and they can also help in developing prompt data sets that can be used to evaluate clinical decision support systems that are being deployed on field at scale. So this could take the form of medical terminology corpuses as well. And what we will also help to do, if you could reach out to us, we'll share a list of what some of these common data sets, which I think are anyway being generated as a part of regular medical processes. And you can try to see how which of these data sets would be best fit your use case and how you can contribute. I hope I answered your question. Let me know if there's anything.
Yes. Thank you.
As I proceed to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pattabi from AU KBC. My question was like, what are the kind of data sets that you're looking into, and what is it like? You're expecting it's a free contribution, or it will be like the efforts will be paid for? How does it how does it work?
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much for your question. So these are the type of language data sets broadly that we are looking into. Again, these are the standards that we have clustered based on already the contribution that is happening in the ecosystem at this point of time. It can be a text data, audio content, image-based content, video content at this point of time as well. Databases in terms of glossaries or dictionaries or terminologies. For example, in case of agriculture use case, we see a lot of crop names are different in different states. So how can this turn into a good glossary contributions, which can be further help in training of these AI models as well. And also a lot of prompt data sets, because now a lot of evaluations also take place in terms of to see how one model is performing better than the other one, just to ensure that how many languages they are covering, how much local context they are covering. So this is a broad sense of language data sets, depending on your context, sir, with from what format and what area are you contributing towards. We would be open to discuss. Second thing, second question that you asked in terms of whether it's a paid effort or a free effort at this point of time. So at this point of time, looking at just an expression of interest. If you are sitting on certain level of data sets, we would be open to discuss this further. I cannot, talk about the paid component at this point of time, but it is more to see what kind of data sets you can already put out in the open context. And in case you have certain level of restricted or request only content, it can be case discussed with the DOST Helpdesk team. I hope I could answer your question.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to take up a question?
Yeah, one more question. Where is this expression of interest put on the net? Any link is it possible to share so that we
Yeah.
can go through it fully?
Definitely. It's already been put public in our social media channels, but what we would do is post this meeting. All the people who have signed up for this webinar, we would send this expression of interest link separately as well. So,
Okay, thank you.
anyone else in case of any questions? Also, in case you don't have any questions at this point of time, we would be open to take questions for another day or two, where we would address all the queries that you have in terms of this expression of interest. And we would also be releasing a proper answer set to different FAQs that we have got throughout this process, so that would also be helpful, along with some reading materials. Okay, there's one question that's come on the chat. Can you give some details on data ambassador and how civil society organizations can contribute in this initiative and reach out for the same? Okay, so data ambassadors are basically, these are people who are being put up by the DOST team, who are native speakers and native folks who understand the language of a particular state and also understand the ecosystem of the state better, who can support the local organizations or individual contributors who want to contribute to any form of data contribution for that language in the state. How civil society organizations can contribute in this initiative? We are looking at civil societies to play a bigger role from the context of domains, from the context of needs, because a lot of civil societies work with thematic areas and work with real users as well at the grassroots levels. So what kind of interest areas, what kind of potential exclusions can happen, not just because of having representation of a particular language or a particular community in the whole evolution of AI, is something what civil societies can definitely provide us input on. Secondly, in case you are working in an ecosystem which are having people from that local native speakers, we can look at certain level of data collection process as well, which can take place through civil societies, which can help in terms of community building as well. So that is how we look at the role of civil societies, and we can build your capacity. Because I understand, everyone does not understand what a language data set is, or everyone might not have the infrastructure. But how can we enable you? Those team is mostly acting like enablers or catalysts in this process to support and guide you along with your communities here. You can reach out in terms of by this expression of interest, and also we would be providing a email address of the DOST Helpdesk team, where you can write your query, you can mention what is the concern or area that you would like to address via this. So I hope whoever has asked this question, I have answered it. A member has put the DOST Helpdesk email ID in the chat. We would request you to please keep this handy to put out your questions, to put out any kind of concerns you have, wherever you see you need doubts to be clarified in terms of contribution. We have another last 2 minutes. Just want to check any other further questions we have. Otherwise, we would head towards the closing. Yeah, Mr. Manohar Kabir, please go ahead.
Yeah, now I can unmute. I was unable to unmute earlier. So I come from a region in Rajasthan called Shekhawati, and I've been looking at Shekhawati dialect documentation, which uses Devanagari script. So unlike a pure script, since it's Devanagari and a lot of books and other material is already available from the region of Shekhawati, when we approach something like this, does it is it a more accelerated way to reach out to publishers and certain IP owners who can offer their literature and material as input data for the language documentation bit, or are there certain practices which would not recommend this? And basically, what's the first step? Like, I'm at a very nascent stage, so I'm trying to understand where does the first step of dataset collection exactly begin for a dialect which has Devanagari as a script. I hope I was able to frame it fine, otherwise I can rephrase.
Sure. I can start the question and ask my colleagues to jump in. I think the first step would be to also clearly have some sort of governance details in place of who owns the data set and who the contributors and publishers flow would be. We can provide a clear guidelines in terms of how we're actually contributing, what constitutes a language data set and versus a different dialect. And we have some guidelines in place which would be accessible in our FAQs as well. And if you have anything to add.
Yeah, just adding to what my colleague was saying, in case we are unclear about who the custodians of this data set at this point of time is, we can do like a quick mapping exercise in terms of, where who sits with the ownership at this stage, because if that is clear, we can proceed in terms of, how to take it in terms of a faster contribution process. Said that, even in the expression of interest, if there is any links or resources that you can share with us, that would also help us enable to understand, how the ownership or the governance has been divided. So we can also guide you back in terms of, how the governance can be set up, how can the licensing or any kind of, sharing practices around this can be built. So the other way around also we can support you, but we would need some understanding in terms of, if there are any existing links, any existing sample data that we can take a look at this point.
Sure, that helps, and I look forward to the material. Just another question, if we have time.
Sure.
A lot of regional heritage and culture is in the form of oral history. So while they don't have a script of their own, there are a lot of linguistic idioms and variety of stuff which is available. You can sometimes find them in books, but often, especially from rural backgrounds, even authors don't necessarily have them, and they have a very short shelf life. So the ideal way is definitely to sort of crowdsource from a variety of young people in rural areas who can be a bridge between the older generation and the new generation. So I have been looking for some sort of a solution, which is, so we have a variety of crowdsourcing solutions, right? But in the context of dialect compilation, what kind of crowdsourcing tools are already available? So instead of building something from the scratch, if there is already a case study anywhere in the world and we can apply it to Shekhawati, then as an institution, we are looking for some sort of on-ground implementation if such tools exist. And accordingly, we can identify what kind of capacity and fiscal support do we need from sponsors once we understand this path. So in that direction, we would love some resources and help.
Sure, definitely. Thanks for sharing that. And I think voice data sets in themselves are very valuable. And from what we understand, BHASHINI also has access to data annotation tools that can also maybe potentially be used in your case. But we would definitely love to learn more about your use case and support you as best as we can.
Thanks.
Do we have any more time? Okay. Again, I thank you all for joining this webinar. We would definitely love to be in touch with each one of you who have signed up today for the webinar, and looking forward to looking at your expression of interest as well as you contribute to it. So again, my point here would be that do not hesitate from putting out the expression of interest, as Amitabh sir said, and all of us in the ecosystem, we know that we are building this ecosystem further. We have not achieved the possible, success at this point of time. There's a long journey for us to go. So we would request that please do put out your expression of interest. These are the potential data streams that we can build together. We can support you to build together and also help you to build that ecosystem and connect you within the ecosystem at this point of time. So once again, thank you so much for your support and your for joining this webinar. And we would be sharing all the required materials, all the required FAQs over the questions that you have been put out just post this webinar. So do keep a check on the pages that we would be sharing and also on the social media handles. Thank you so much.